Welcome to the Living Centred podcast, a podcast all about learning together how to live lives which are centred on Jesus. Everyone lives centred on something. Our goal is to learn together how every area of our lives, everything about who we are and how we live, can be increasingly oriented around Jesus and transformed by Jesus. He invites us to a rich and satisfying life, where the good news that he truly is enough changes everything about how we relate to God, ourselves, and the world. In each episode, a different person shares about what it's looking like for them to seek to centre their life on Jesus right now. As we hear their stories, we get to learn together and to encourage one another in what it means for Jesus to be at the centre of our lives. This is a journey we are all invited to, and a conversation we all get to be a part of. Thanks for joining us.
It is my privilege to introduce today Rob, who will be sharing this week. Rob, it is so good to have you with us.
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for having me on.
I wonder if we could start by just you sharing a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what your life looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Rob, and I've been a member of Oasis for the last 2 to 3 years. I got married in the summer, and I moved to Birmingham with my wife Hope. And for me, most days I work for National Grid as an engineer, so I'm usually just doing an office job or traveling to sites across the country, and that tends to be what my days look like.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Rob. Well, I guess the big question I always jump in with is then, what does living centered on Jesus look like for you right now?
So living centered for me right now is an interesting question, because had you asked me probably a few months ago, I would have given a very different answer, where for me it had always been around trying to find opportunities to talk about Jesus with people, whether that's through my job or through friends outside of church, or just trying to find time to be still and quiet and work on devotional time. But really for me recently, there's been a lot of challenges, particularly around the people that we care for, and these sort of tough times have really put the focus of having Jesus-centered a life around trying to bring problems to Jesus and worries to God, versus trying to kind of fix them on my own, if you will. And yeah, I'd say it's probably more so what living centered of Jesus looks like for me right now, is trying to bring those worries and problems to God.
That's so helpful, Rob. Thank you for sharing. I think it both in terms of just recognizing staying centered on Jesus looks different at different times because of the things that are going on around our life, but also just that reality that actually stuff happens, and what do we do when the stuff happens? How do we keep trusting that to Jesus? And I guess that leads me on to kind of ask, what is it that's helping you as you're seeking to stay centered and trust things to Jesus?
Absolutely. The thing that's really helping me to sort of try and stay centered to Jesus as best I can, at least, is when these kind of problems, worries hit, not to just keep them to myself. It's to share where possible, with close friends, family, or members of the church community, the issues that you're kind of battling through. As people are always willing to sort of help and to support, whether that's through prayer or doing kind acts of service, or whatever it might be, and whatever they can contribute. I found that's really helped. And I found as well it's being intentional, and being really intentional with time with God, and making sure that even when you are going through, at least when I'm going through those tough times, it's to not sort of push God down the line as I'll get around to praying to you, whatever, when it's more convenient, but more so of I'm still going to try and devote my time even when it's hard, and to sort of tell you about my anguish or what's going on.
That's so helpful, Rob. Really helpful. I love that, in terms of both the choosing to share with others, but also being intentional in terms of in respect to just that, making sure that God still stays the priority, rather than pushing him down, kind of time with God, down the pecking order, just because of other things feeling more of a priority. It's just so helpful. I guess within that then, what would you say you're discovering about God, about Father, Son, and Spirit at this point in time?
For me, the thing I'm probably discovering most about kind of God and Jesus and being centered on Jesus is who Jesus really is, and starting to understand that character a lot more. I've certainly had a kind of a picture, a view of who Jesus is for me, and I've kind of fallen prey to the philosophy of you have to kind of earn God's love and you have to work for it, which I think is a really hard mindset to kind of get out, particularly when the world as we know it today is all about you earn it, your performance is what you're paid and rated for.
Yes.
But for me, it's really, I've been kind of meditating on John 15 recently, 9-16, which is all about coming to the Father who already loves you, and you're not trying to earn that love. And for me, kind of in these times where it's been quite hard, I've been trying to meditate on this and really understand that no matter what happens, that God still loves me, and that God is just inherently love, and you don't need to earn it.
That is so good. It feels like often like something that is easy to say, hard to live in.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's just amazing to be discovering that. I guess in it, and maybe this is part of what's going on as well, is my last question is then, how would you say you're changing through all of this?
I think the changes I've noticed most recently really has been how much it's softened my heart. I think when you kind of hold yourself to such a high, standard or a level, you end up holding everyone else around you to that same level. But I've really kind of noticed that going through these kind of challenges and things has been how much it has, softened my heart to other people, and to be more kind of forgiving and embracing of other people and their issues, and to not just try and see problems as how do you fix this? How do we control that and make it better? But to really give it to God, and to be there to listen, to pray, and to support others, and to really put their needs first before mine.
That sounds phenomenal. It really does. It's so good, Rob. So good. Thank you so much for sharing. I think I know for me, I'm going to be considering, out of what you've shared, is just what struck me is the reality that we're not going to try and live centered just by ourselves.
Yeah.
That we're invited to do that with others, that we're not alone, and we get to invite others in. And I think I want to just contemplate out of this of just how can I be inviting others in to help and encourage me in centering on Jesus this coming week. How about you, my listening friends? What is it that struck you, and what is it that you're going to take from this conversation with Rob? Lastly, I just want to thank you for listening, and I pray you would know more of the wonder of living centered on Jesus this coming week.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Living Centered podcast. New episodes are released every Monday, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do like and subscribe on your chosen podcast provider to receive them direct each week. Living Centered is produced by the team at Oasis Church in Birmingham, UK, and you can find out more and get in touch with the team via theoasischurch.com.